But it got to a point where I had to listen to what my body was saying to me. So it all started, Chris, in 2014. I was working in management consultancy and I started with just not really being able to sleep, feeling absolutely just exhausted. My mind was whirring and just didn't start to feel very well at all. And I had sort of numbness, pins and needles, felt really dizzy and sick. And it got to the point where I was having really bad panic attacks. And I thought, you know what, I'm not the type of person to get panic attacks. What the hell is going on? I remember one day, the worst point was when I was speaking to my boss. I just couldn't get my words out at all, made absolutely no sense. And she said to me, you need to go and see the occupational psychologist. And I was like, what on earth is an occupational psychologist? And so tracked down and she said, you have burnout. And I was like, what on earth is burnout? And I obviously ended up realising it was just, a complete exhaustion. I went back after 2 weeks because I felt so embarrassed at the time, and back in 2014, let's be honest, mental health wasn't discussed at all in the workplace. And so it took me, 2 weeks, went back, still wasn't very well at all. And I ended up resigning. I just could not recover. And this went on for years and years. I kept burning out, going back into the same jobs. And eventually I thought, I need to change my life. What can I do? I started studying. So I was sleeping for 7 hours a day at some points, couldn't wake up in the mornings. For me, it was the chronic headaches. And it was just things like, just the micro signs for me, the small signs were things like even just like constant eyelid twitching. It was like my body was just so frantic. And it was just, as I said, the big thing for me was the panic attacks. They were horrible, in the bathroom at work. And I know at the time there was such a pandemic of people in the workplace all suffering with the same as me, but no one was talking about it. It was such a taboo.
Well, but also they probably weren't aware of it either, because, you can feel tired, you can feel unconnected. The more unconnected you feel, the less you can sort of commentate on who you are and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And that's where the panic attacks come from, lack of control, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And I also think with panic attacks, so it's about your body telling you, listen to me, something's not right.
Yeah.
It's a big sign. And I ignored the signs for years. I was masking with alcohol, like most people do. I was just, carrying on my life as normal. But it got to a point where I had to listen to what my body was saying to me.
What was the tipping point or the turning point after the massive 2-year epiphany?
Well, I suppose, so I kept going to my doctors first of all, and they kept saying to me I was normal. My bloods were normal, I looked normal, yet I felt absolutely terrible. And for me, my rock bottom moment was just, I couldn't perform my jobs anymore. I could not work. And I think when you get to a point where you can't work, you're like, I have to do something about this. I need to earn money to pay my mortgage.
Yep.
And so I ended up retraining as a nutritionist, decided actually the root cause for me was very much about, kind of making sure that I retrained, did something that I was passionate about. And the course was so transformative. It was totally life-changing, and I absolutely loved it. And the amount I learned on this course was just, it was amazing.
Tell everybody about the 5 sections in the book.
It's really 5 very, very simple steps. Yeah. First step is about eating for energy. It's all based around big nutrition, so brain, immune and gut health. Second step is all about, nourishing your gut. There's so much scientific research about the gut microbiome now. The fact there's such a brain-gut connection, it really helps if you nourish your gut with mental health and mood. Third is all about the foundational layers of well-being, sleep and exercise. We all need to sleep more and exercise more. We know that. Fourth step is all about energising with supplements. I believe, and I'm disagreeing here with Tim Spector, sorry Tim, but I genuinely believe that we all need to be taking supplements because our food quality is just not what it used to be. And fifth step, I think this is the most important one, is all about how you can harness the power of your brain. And that is so important. You have to learn to manage your mind. And for me, that has been the best thing that I've done. I think the best thing that I did with managing my mind was something called Morning Pages.
Yeah.
So it's a brilliant book have you read the book?
Yep.
By Julia Cameron. Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
Fantastic.
It's such a good book. So Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. You basically, first thing in the morning before you do absolutely anything.
Goosebumps. I got goosebumps.
Oh, amazing. 3 pages of morning notes just to totally declutter your brain, It is just so good, and it takes away the fear and the worry from your day ahead. And for me, just doing that and taking that self-care practice first thing in the morning was it was really transformative. It was brilliant. And also, I think if you need any sort of creative inspiration, because we know also if you've got purpose and you've got lots of creativity, you tend to have a lot more energy as well. That's what the science suggests. And actually, that book's got some brilliant questions in to make you think. It's just, loved it.
It's called Fix Your Fatigue. It's by Karina Antram. She's in front of us now. She's a qualified nutritionist. She's an executive coach. She's been through the mill, okay? So she's fixing herself. She's a wounded healer. The best healers are the wounded. You know, that's what lets the light in.
Yeah. So basically, I thought, I want to write a book that appeals to the absolutely exhausted person. And so at the back of every single chapter, you've got that too tired, didn't read. It's a recap of the chapter. So if you're too tired, all you need to do is just don't read the whole chapter. Just read the back of the chapter. Also, a little bit of science just to drop in because it is an evidence-based book. And then I've got one question and one action, because actually if you can take an action away and do something immediately, you're already starting to make progress, which is exactly what we want to do. Because it's the little tiny micro actions you take every single day, because over time that builds. And that's exactly what I did. It wasn't major changes. Yes, I did quit my job, but it's all about the little things that you do every single day. Because I believe what you do today impacts how you think and feel tomorrow. So if you make more of the right decisions and the choices in that, say today, you will feel better tomorrow.
Why do you feel happier when you're not tired? Well, because you get your sense of humour back. That's one of the first. That's a real telltale sign, isn't it?
It is, when you just feel flat and depressed.
Yeah,
you know,
because we think we lose our patience when we're tired. Well, we do eventually, but the first thing that goes is our sense of humour or our ability to have a bit of a laugh. Because and people say you got to bed the wrong side, because you're just not that upbeat that day, because that's the first thing to go. So if you are upbeat and you are happy and suddenly you can't hear yourself laughing so much, then that's probably why. That's one of the things. Who doesn't? And that's the super fuel of life, isn't it? That joy.
Yeah, I think absolutely agree with you. And I also think the super fuel of life is actually also having something called a BHAG. I love it. Do you know, it really, really helped me to have a BHAG.
Tell us about your BHAG.
It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. And do you know, I set a couple of years ago my BHAG, which was to write the book. And now I'm sat here with you talking about my book.
Yeah.
And it got me through, lockdown, which, let's be honest, was really tough for a lot of people, the tough times, and it was such an energizer. My BHAG now is I want to produce the book and hopefully on Netflix and create a documentary out of it. And that, again, for me is so energizing. And a good BHAG has to have something called the gulp factor, which is it really stops you in your tracks and makes you feel like, if I achieved that, I would feel amazing.
Or at least if I set out to achieve it.
Yes.
You don't have to achieve it. You don't have to be tied to the expectation. But it's the intention.
It's the intention, yeah. And also it keeps you going, as I said. If you get a difficult time and you think, God, but I've got this to focus on, it makes you feel amazing.
Well,
so set a BHAG.
It neutralises time.
Absolutely.
It's just, time's a thing if required. But, you're filling your being, aren't you? That's the thing, isn't it? You're in the here and the now. Karina, great to meet you.
And you, Chris.
Well
Thank
done
you so
for
much.
turning your life around.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
I feel good.
All right.